Alright, what's up, Dragon Brood? Today we're going to be taking a look at a whole lot of cards that have been previewed for March of the Machines, and so far, there's a lot of hype. I've tried not to look at them, so you're getting my first actual, I guess, true reactions, but we did do this on stream, so we're going to share this with y'all. So let's go hop into it and take a look at all these cards. As always, remember, check out the sponsor, ultrapro.com/PowerDragon. Use promo code PowerDragon, we'll save 5% on your purchases, and they'll give us a small kickback here on the channel, which supports me while you get some stuff yourself. And like I was talking about earlier, if you haven't made plans, if you're going to be in the area, Command Fest Orlando, I will be down there. Thanks to Cool Stuff Inc. for getting me down there for the event. But come by, say hi, come play some games, let's go grab a drink, whatever. Just come so I can get a chance to meet you. But all right, let's hop into some cards here. First card here, we have Archangel Elspeth. It's a 4 mana, 4 loyalty planeswalker. +1, create a 1/1 soldier with lifelink. You can -2, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. It becomes an angel in addition to its other types and gains flying. Or you can -6 and return all non-land permanents with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This feels pretty good. 4 mana is not too difficult, obviously. You basically have a 5 loyalty planeswalker, and you're going to get a blocker with lifelink, which is pretty good. Or if it's later in the game, you could just make something big and flying or come over a top, which is actually really, really big. I like that a lot here. -6 is probably pretty easy to achieve on this, and we already have the other angel that lets you play 3 mana things out of the graveyard. This kind of does it all at once, which is kind of cool. I don't think it's broken, but I do think it's very good. There are some situations where, let's say, maybe you're playing against some control type build and they've killed off a few of your creatures, and you're able to +1, make a body, +1, make a body, get all your things back. Like, that's pretty sweet. But we'll see how it plays out. Like, this card actually, though, is pretty cool. It's also neat to kind of see story version Elspeth kind of really become an Archangel or whatever, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, lots of stuff to be excited about on this card. I think it's going to get a lot of play, for sure. Boon-Bringer Valkyrie. So honestly, this is another angel that you might maybe play in the angel deck. So it's a 5 mana 4/4. Angel Warrior, backup 1. Backup says when this creature enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1, or whatever the number is, on target creature. If that's another creature, it gains the following abilities to end a turn. Flying, First Strike, Lifelink. So you get a 4/4, Flying, First Strike, Lifelink for 5. But you get to put a +1 on something else that also becomes Flying, First Strike, Lifelink. This feels pretty good, but it also feels a little bit like a trap. Like I want it to be better than it is, but I think I would still like playing this card, though. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I think this card's playable. I'm just not sure what decks it fits in, right? Because this doesn't necessarily have to be in an angel deck. This could just be like the top end to some green-white, red-white aggro deck or something, and then you give some creature Flying, First Strike, Lifelink to come over the top and finish your opponent, right? So, very reasonable card, and the Lifelink is huge, because now you'd also have 2 creatures with lifelink, one of which is 4 power, no telling what the other one is. So I'm kind of into it. I'm feeling this card. This is pretty sweet. What do we got here next? We have Elesh Norn. Just Elesh Norn, not a full title. So we have 4 mana for a 3/5 Phyrexian Praetor. Not a surprise. Legendary because it's Elesh Norn. It has Vigilance. And when a source an opponent controls deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller loses 2 life unless they pay 1. So if you get hit by something, your opponent has to pay 1 or they lose 2 life. Interesting. Not something you normally see on a white card. And then it has a backside. Oh, it has the other ability. You can pay 3, sacrifice 3 other creatures, exile Elesh Norn, then return it to the battlefield, transform under its owner's control, activate only as a sorcery. So you can sacrifice 3 other things, exile this, and it flips. The backside is... Oh, the backside's a Saga. I think that's the first time we've had that. So, okay. Incubates 2 5 times, then transform all incubator tokens you control. So if I remember right, I did read incubator being you basically make a token that you can pay to and flip it, and it becomes a 0/0 creature, and it already has some number of counters on it. So these would all be 2/2s effective that you could incubate. Then the second chapter is creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain double strike until end of turn. That's kind of cute. And then you destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, Phyrexians. Exile this and return it to the battlefield. Oh, so okay. So you're flipping this back and forth. This is kind of cool. So you have Elesh Norn on the front side, right? And then at some point you have some other number of creatures you can sacrifice. Then it flips. So then you're making these 5 incubator tokens, which can become 2/2s. Right? Whatever. If you do still have creatures out already, then you get to attack, and that's awesome. And they get +1 and double strike. But then on the last one, you destroy everything that's not an artifact, a land, or a Phyrexian, and then you get Elesh Norn back. This card's kind of cool. I don't know totally what it fits into yet, but this is pretty neat. The thing that's interesting, though, is you have to have some other creatures to be able to flip it to kind of get all this going. So you can't just play it in like a control shell to just like make by kind of like what people did with Edgar. You can't really do that here because you have to be able to sacrifice other things. But yeah, kind of a cool card, though. I dig it. Next up, why is my formatting off on some of these? That's the only thing bad about MTG Nexus site, but still helpful. Heliod, the Radiant Dawn. So we have a 4 mana, 4/4 legendary enchantment creature god. Heliod enters the battlefield. Return target enchantments card that isn't a god from your graveyard to your hand. You get to pay 4 or 3 in a blue Phyrexian mana. Transform Heliod. Activate only as a sorcery. And the backside is... Alright, you may cast spells as though they had flash. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know how I feel about this. This doesn't... I think my problem here is this doesn't feel much like other Heliods. I think is the problem. This is just like a 4/4 body that becomes a 3/5 that also, or 4/6 that also lets you play spells cheaper. Like, this is the type of thing some control decks like. Obviously, be able to play all your spells at instant speed and be able to leave like counter mana open if necessary. But yeah, I don't know. I'm. This feels like it's probably better than I think it is. But it's the first one so far I'm not that excited to shove into a deck. Not to say I won't play with it at some point, but I'm not as excited about this one. All right, we've got Mastermind, or Faerie Mastermind. Colorless and a blue for 2/1, flash, flying, Fairy Rogue. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. And you could pay to have each player draw a card. This just seems generally useful. You know, even in older formats especially, where you can play fairies as a creature type, pretty cool. Getting to draw an extra card is kind of nice, and the fact that you can force people to draw is neat. But generally speaking, not crazy. Kind of cool for the draw 2 type decks, right? Where you want to draw an extra card each turn. This is a cool, like, engine card for that. Probably playable. I don't know if it's exciting, but it's neat and it's useful. We've got Jin-Gitaxias, 5 mana, 5/5, which has Ward 2, so it's going to be hard to kill, like the other Jin-Gitaxias. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, draw a card. Pay 4, exile Jin, return it. Alright, has a... activate only as a sorcery, and only if you have 7 or more cards in hand. So you have to keep your hand loaded to... This is probably going to be harder to flip, but the backside is also a saga, so I guess we're doing this with all the Praetors. Draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size for as long as you control the Great Synthesis. Chapter 2, return all non-Phyrexian creatures to their owner's hands. Chapter 3, you may cast any number of spells from your hand without paying their mana cost. Wow. Exile this and return it. So this is kind of interesting because you get a lot of cards, which is great, and you have to have at least 7 to have flipped it. So we'll assume you have 6 or 7 cards for by the time you get to this thing flipping. But I'm not really sure. Like, you get a lot of cards, and it feels nice, but it's also already a 5-mana creature. You have to protect it, keep it alive. It does bounce everything except for Phyrexians, which is pretty cool. However, there are a lot of random creatures that are Phyrexians from the last set and possibly this set, so you may not even be returning all that many things, depending. And then you get to cast stuff for free. That's the good part. But you also have to have this get to that 3rd chapter to make it worthwhile. So, yeah, I'm not sure about this. Chuck Noblox, thanks for the subscription for 14 months. Much appreciated. Yeah, this is, I don't know. I'm not as excited about this one as I was Elesh Norn. All right, Archpriest of Shadows. This is a 5-mana 4/4 human warlock. Backup 1, which lets you put a counter on another creature, and then it gains Death Touch in this case. This card has Death Touch, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Ooh. This is interesting. You just get to straight up return a thing from your graveyard to the battlefield. Wow. It does cost 5, so it's not like it's out of control. But I don't remember the last creature we had this type of ability on. Like, being able to just put something into play is really powerful. Now, you'd have to give it flying or menace or something or whatever to make that easier. But boy, if you could, this could be a really neat reanimator piece. Or even after a sweeper, right? Like, your opponent gets rid of the board, you play this thing, now they have to deal with the 4/4, and if they don't, you're now getting stuff back out of the graveyard. And those things coming out of the graveyard don't have any extra lines on it, right? You just get it back. It's not like it goes away, it's exiled, nothing like that. So this is a pretty cool card. If you can find a way to make this work, this could be real strong. Yeah, being able to put this on something else that already has flying is really strong too. So you're right. If you have it on Archfiend, great. You have it on something else with Trample, great. You know, like I say, an Obliterator, great. So lots of neat stuff. We've got Breach the Multiverse. 7 mana, so this is a little bit more intensive. Each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Then each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to its other type. Wow. Wow. All right. Geez. So even in a 1v1 game, which by the way, this is going to be a hot commander card, but just for competitive play, say for standard, you're milling somebody for 10, if that's part of your strategy or not already. And then you're getting your graveyard and theirs and getting to put a creature and a planeswalker back into play. Potentially, you're getting 4 cards for 7 mana. Realistically, assuming you built around this, like at least 3 cards for 7 mana. That's still really good. And there's no restriction on the cost, the size, nothing like that. Like, ooh boy. Oh boy. This card. This card's pretty sexy. I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna do some stuff in Commander games for sure. This is one of those low-key like rares that even if it doesn't get a lot of play in 60 card Magic, could be that card that creeps up over the course of a season and becomes like that $10 or $12 Commander card. I remember people posting something about like Urabrask being dead. Apparently, I guess he goes rogue and they decide to slice him up or something. I don't know, trying to punish him. But then there's flavor text here that says the harvesters bore away the last of his limbs. What remained of Urabrask heard Elesh Norn say, leave the traitor be. So I guess he's not dead yet. So maybe he could put himself back together or somebody puts him back together. I don't know. But yeah, either way, this is cool. It's a 6 mana card that exiles a creature, but you get to incubate 3. So you get to make 3 things. Oh no, you just get to create an incubator token with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. So you can transform it into being a 3/3 creature. It's an instant, which is nice. It's an uncommon, so I mean, it's probably better in draft. You're probably never going to play this in constructed, just because 6 mana is a lot to get rid of a creature with a small upside. But yeah, just cool. I just shared it more for story purposes than anything else. We have a Chandra. Actually, I have a question. I need to go look this up in a minute, but like, is Chandra, you know what? Is Chandra the most printed planeswalker? Maybe Ajani. There's a lot of Ajanis too. But anyway, this is a 6 mana, 5 loyalty, with a static ability of whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You can choose new targets for the copy, blah, blah, blah. It only triggers once each turn. So you pay 2, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. You plus 2, and then you plus 1. Exile the top 5 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from among them. And minus X. Chandra's Hope's Beacon deals X damage to each of up to 2 target creatures. Wow, there's a lot going on with this card. First off, if you can keep it into play, then you just get to copy all your instants and sorceries. That's actually pretty strong. And both abilities are pluses, which is pretty cool. So you get to look at 5 cards and you can play one off the top, which you still have to cast it. So it's not like you get to cast it for free. You still have to pay it. But let's see. It says cast an instant or sorcery as well. So you only get one of them. Not that that's still bad, right? You're getting to see 5 cards and get the best of the 5. And then she just kills creatures. So she could come out effectively and kill like 2 2/2s and be left at 1 loyalty if you wanted to. That's a thing. Or you could have 2 more mana and use it to shoot something or play another body or whatever. I don't know. This is neat, but this feels more like a mid-rangey control type. You know, like if I was playing actually a red Super Friends deck might actually work with this. Where you've got this, you've got Jaya, you've got Koth, a bunch of sweepers, spot removal. Like this could be part of a deck. I think those are the type of decks this goes into. It's not the type of red planeswalker that just fits a bunch of decks, but if you play it in a specific type of deck, I think this card's all right. All right, we have Etali, which is... Wait. Kind of weird we have Etali, because didn't Etali come from Ixalan with the rest of the dinosaurs? I mean, I know we're going back to Ixalan, so maybe this is just like a tying the worlds together sort of thing. But Etali, Primal Conqueror, 5 red for a 7/7 Elder Dinosaur with Trample. When Etali enters the battlefield, each player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. You may cast any number of spells from among the non-land cards exiled this way without paying their mana. Wow, okay. So, for one-on-one battles, it's alright, right? You might get something that's not great. But for commander games, you just play this and you get a spell from each of your opponents. That's strong. And it's a 7/7 with Trample. I like it. You can pay 10 or 9 and a green Phyrexian mana. And you transform this, activate only as a sorcery. That's cool. What's the backside? Okay, it transforms into an 11/11 Phyrexian Elder Dinosaur with Trample and Indestructible. My goodness. Whenever Sickness Primal Sickness, because it's got a different name on the back, deals combat damage to a player, they get that many points. So it one-shots your opponent. Like, Big Dumb Dinosaur comes down, gets a couple of free spells, and then you one-shot your opponent on the backside. Like, this card's wild, man. I don't think it's great by any means, but boy, is it a constant threat, right? And it has Indestructible on the backside. That's the other crazy part. Like, this thing's wild. Yeah, I don't know about this thing. Like, it does say from each player, right? So you'll at least get a spell from your opponent that you may or may not want. You'll get one of your own spells, which you very likely want. And you get a 7/7 or whatever on the front side. And then you only need to produce 2 more mana, which you might or might not already have, or have ways to produce that, to flip it to the backside and then attempt to one-shot your opponents. This thing's crazy. I'm into it, though. This is going right into one of my commander decks. I'm going to try to get my hands on one of these for sure. But this card's wild. A lot of fun. Pool of Kranos Reborn. 3 green mana for a 4/5. All right, I'm already in. You're telling me it's only 3 green for a 4/5. So we're already in. It's a legendary Hydra with reach. Awesome. You can pay 7 with white Phyrexian mana in there. Transform, pull a Kranos Reborn, activate only as a sorcery. This seems to be a theme this set. And the backside is Engine of Ruin. Definitely became completed, I guess. Reach and Lifelink. And it's a 6/6. Whenever it or another non-token Hydra you control dies, create a 3/3 green and white Phyrexian Hydra creature token with Reach and 3/3 green white Phyrexia. Oh, so this is like, it becomes a Worm Coil engine. That's pretty sweet. So on the front side, you just get a quality like 4/5 with Reach for 3, which is already good. But then if you just get to a point where you have 6 mana and you want to flip it, you effectively get a Worm Coil engine. Like, that's kind of like not identical, obviously, but like, this is cool. I'm into this. Like, this is a sweet card. Man, this is a huge tool for mono green, by the way. Like, getting a 4/5 for 3 is really good, and getting to 6 mana to be able to flip this is not difficult. Like, this is, man, creatures are loaded in this set. Oh my gosh, this is good too. I'm wow. This thing's just gonna be hard to deal with, even like a 3 mana 4/5. Whew. All right. Oh yeah. This one I did see beforehand. This one I did see beforehand. Wrenn and Realmbreaker. Colorless, green, 4 loyalty. Lands you control have add mana of any color. +1, up to 1 target land you control becomes a 3/3 elemental creature with vigilance, hexproof, and haste until your next turn. Still a land. -2, mill 3 creatures, or mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card from among the milled cards into your hand. And -7, you get an emblem that whenever you play a land, and cast permanent spells from, you can play lands and permanent spells from your graveyard. Yeah, I don't know how powerful it is. There's a bunch of debates. That's the only reason I know about this card, is there was a bunch of debates on social media about this card being great or this card being garbage. The truth is, I think the story is somewhere in between. I think if you have the right deck for it, it's probably decent. Like, there's probably some, let's say, Jund builds where having access to multiple colors could be really neat. Being able to turn a land into a creature is kind of cool, but it doesn't really do much. It doesn't untap it or anything, so it's not like you're getting to ramp with that mana. So I don't know, it feels just okay. And I would love to be wrong, because it's a 3 mana planeswalker, and if usually when we get 3 mana planeswalkers, they're super good. But yeah, here there's some things it can do, but like, even the like -2, all right, I get to put a thing into my hand. That's neat, getting to reuse stuff from the graveyard. So that could be the powerful part of the card, depending on what type of deck it's in, you know. But that being said, we don't get a ton of use right now, even out of Tyvar. So, yeah, this one's hard to judge. I'm gonna leave the verdict out on this one, because I think in most decks it's not going to be great, but in the decks that can utilize it, it's probably going to be very good. Yeah, this set has a whole series of combined legends. I don't know what we want to call those, but these are all going to be pretty interesting. So we have Drana and Linvala for 4 mana, 3/4 Vampire Angel, which is going to fit multiple deck types. Flying and Vigilance, which is nice on a 3/4. Activated abilities of creatures you control can't... Wait, activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated. Drana and Linvala has all activated abilities of all creatures your opponents control. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate those abilities. Wow. I don't know how many activated their abilities there are right now, though. There's a few in some of the red variants that either like sack to draw cards or tap to deal some damage. But outside of that, I don't know if there's a ton. Like, most of them are just like triggered abilities or conditional things. I don't know. I mean, Flying and Vigilance is nice on a 3/4. I'm not against that. And your opponent not being able to activate some things is also really good. But there's not that many things. But it's kind of just a quality card otherwise. And the artwork's kind of neat. So there's that. Ghalta and Mavren. Well, we know Ghalta was big previously. So we have 7 mana, 2 green, 2 white, and 3 for a dinosaur vampire. 12/12 for 7 mana. All right, so this has to have some kind of drawback, right? Trample. Whenever you attack, choose 1. Create a tapped and attacking XX green dinosaur creature token with trample where X is the greatest power among other attacking creatures. Or you can create X/1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink where X is the number of other attacking creatures. Wow, okay, so for 7 mana, you get a 12/12 trampler that can either make some other mid-sized creature, I'm assuming. We'll assume you're attacking with something else that's a 3 or 4 or something. But it has to be another attacking creature. So it's not just another creature you control. So that is a little tough. But when you attack and use the other one, you create X/1/1 white vampire creature tokens where X is the number of other attacking creatures as a whole. So you can attack with a bunch of things and then just get a bunch of tokens that happen to have lifelink. Not sure either ability is stellar. They both feel kind of like the ability is going to put you ahead if you're already ahead. Because if you're attacking frivolously with other creatures and you don't care and you're just triggering, like that's probably fine for you. You're probably already winning. Plus, they have to deal with your 12/12 trampler, right? If this even gets to attack, it's already going to be a problem for the opponent. So 7 mana for a 12/12 trampler is kind of cool. The abilities are neat, but I don't even know how beneficial they are. But it's a big body. I mean, Ghalta's back, so that's a thing. This is interesting, too, because we just had a Glissa. So we have Glissa, Herald of Predation, 5 mana, 3/5, Phyrexian Zombie Elf. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, choose 1. You incubate twice. So this incubate 2. You create an incubator token, 2+1/+1 counters on it. Or you can transform all incubator tokens you control. So that's pretty cool. And Phyrexians you control gain first strike and death touch until end of turn. Wow, this is like a 1 creature army. Like if this sits out there for a couple turns, you can take a turn, incubate some dudes, and then next turn flip them. And then the next turn, if you want to, attack with first strike and death touch. Or you could just flip your things and attack if your opponent doesn't have any blockers. Or while you're at a standoff, you're like, okay, I'm going to make 2 bodies. I'm going to make 2 bodies. I'm going to make 2 bodies. And then now they all flip and they're attacking along with my other creatures, right? And you don't even have to attack. Like this is just an beginning of combat trigger. This is pretty cool. It's 5 mana for a 3/5. So, I mean, there's that. But you're getting at least some ability off of this for those 5 mana, right? You're getting a 3/5, and at worst, you're incubating twice. Or if you already have other Phyrexians, which there's a lot of creatures that are Phyrexians right now, they could just get first strike and death touch, and you just start attacking, right? You don't even necessarily have to do anything else. Or they transform into 0/0s, and they just have the +1/+1 counters on them. So this is actually pretty cool. Like, you may not even care about incubating if you just get this and you already have some Phyrexians out. Use attack with several things that have first strike and death touch. And that's enough. We have Halo Forager. Colorless blue-black rogue fairy 3/1 flying. When the Forager enters the battlefield, you can pay X. When you do, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value X from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. This is a good card. This is one of the uncommons that, like, you know, will probably show up somewhere. It's a 3/1, so can be killed easily, but it is a 3-power creature. It flies. And later in the game, you can pay 6 or 7 mana and get to reuse some pretty reasonable cards, where they're trying to draw stuff, kill another creature. This is just a quality creature. Like, nothing crazy, just a good middle-of-the-road creature that fills in some spots in a few different decks. Maybe even goes into something like the Grixis mid-range decks, so now they have a flyer and can also play some of their removal again. Omnath, Locus of All. Omnaths are always busted. I don't even have to read this yet, and I know this is going to be busted. So, you have Wooburg mana, but the black can be Phyrexian mana. I guess so we can say it's a Phyrexian creature. Phyrexian Elemental, it's a 4/4. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. Alright. Wait, so if you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes black instead. So we're still... That's weird. It shouldn't... I'm assuming this is saying you will still get to hold that mana. It just becomes black. I feel like there's some words missing from this sentence. Because otherwise, like, the mana becoming a different color and going away doesn't do anything. So I think that's what it's saying. If you would lose unspent mana, then it becomes a black mana and you just sits in your mana pool. I'm going to go with that assumption. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols in its mana cost. If you do, add 3 mana of any combination of its colors and put it into your hand. If you don't, reveal it, put it into your hand. Wait, so if this is okay, so you look at the reveal the top card. I don't know why I'm reading this terribly. So you look at the top card of your library. You may reveal it if it has 3 or more colored mana symbols, and then you get to add those colors. If you don't, you just put it in your hand either way. So it goes into your hand no matter what. I think that's where I was confused. Like, so you reveal it and get the colors. Otherwise, you just put it into your hand if you don't reveal it. So, all right. So this is cool because you're just getting an extra card at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase. So no matter what, you're getting access to another card, right? 3 or more colors, mana costs. If you do, add 3 mana. Yeah. So no matter what, this is just getting you an extra card every turn. Sometimes extra mana. All right, so that's cool. I mean, effectively a 4 mana 4/4 where you give up 2 life if you want to play it. I don't mind this Omnath, actually. It's actually not busted like I thought it was going to be. Because this actually encourages you to play 3-4 color stuff in your deck. So this is actually kind of cool. This is almost like a card you want to build around in Commander, even more so than playing Standard. But it has a pretty useful card overall. So I'm kind of into it. This is neat. Thalia and the Gitrog monster. This artwork is awesome. Like, Thalia is just riding a Gitrog monster for no good reason. Like, why these cards would even be together, who knows? But it's 4 mana, colorless, white, black, green for a 4/4. Human, actually, I just realized Omnath works with a lot of these like multicolor planeswalker, or not planeswalker, but legendary combo creatures. That's kind of cool. But a 4 mana 4/4 human frog horror, first strike, death touch. We like having those words together on a card. Whenever you play, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Whenever Thalia and the Gitrog monster attacks, sacrifice a creature or a land, then draw a card. Yeah, this card's just sweet, man. Like, it's 4/4, first strike, death touch, so it's going to be hard to kill in combat, right? You play an additional land each turn, if you have it. Your opponent's creatures and non-basic lands come into play tap, so that's cool. So you're going to slow your opponent down for even having blockers or casting spells. And then whenever it attacks, you can sacrifice a creature or a land and get to draw a card. So if you have bum tokens or creatures that ain't doing nothing, sack them and get cards. Like, this is cool. This is just a good all-around useful creature. I'm kind of into this. Yargle and Multani. So also a strange combination. 3 colorless, black, black, green. So 6 mana for an 18/6 Frog Spirit Elemental. Well, I guess because it's Yargle. Yargle was the same way. Just big, dumb power toughness, vanilla abilities. Yeah. You just pay 6 mana and you get an 18/6. If you find a way to give this flying or trample, that's hell for your opponent. I guess that's it. Play it if you can give it evasion of some kind. Yeah, 18/6. Those are numbers, huh? Okay. I did have to do a little bit of research on battles before the stream. And basically the way battles work is you cast them like you normally would, and then they have some ability like a regular magic card. However, they also have a number in the lower right-hand side that you can see there. And you can target them with spells, you can attack them. Whenever that number goes to 0, like a planeswalker would, instead of just dying, this flips because they're all double-sided cards. So, kind of interesting what these cards do. But let's start with this one, Invasion of Fiora. This is as it enters, blah, 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 just as a siege, all that good stuff. When it enters the battlefield, choose one or both. You can destroy all legendary creatures. You can destroy all non-legendary creatures. So this is basically 6 mana wipe the board of creatures. Which, fine. Like, we have other cards that do that. 6 mana doesn't seem unreasonable to be able to do that. And then we flip it, which I guess I have to use double screens here to be able to talk about these, which is going to be annoying. But Marchesa is on the backside. So this is weird, like Marchesa is hiding out in the battle. I don't know how we're, like, flavor-wise, though that's supposed to work. But Resolute Monarch is a 3/6 Menace Death Touch. So that's sweet. They have to double block it and probably lose both creatures. Whenever Marchesa attacks, remove all counters from up to 1 target permanent. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you haven't been dealt combat damage since your last turn, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Alright, so the creature itself is solid, if not medium on the impressive scale. But you do get a creature in addition to getting to wipe out the board. That's actually pretty good. And if you have some way to get those counters off of it or damage it, whatever, that's actually kind of cool. I don't have a problem with this. This is neat. I'm into it. I will see what the other battles bring, but this is a reasonable start here. All right, so we have the Invasion of Kiora. I guess I could hold on a second. I guess I could just do this, and then we flip. I just go to the other one. That's probably fine. All right, so we have Invasion of Icoria. This has, when it enters the battlefield, search your library and graveyard for a non-human creature card with mana value X or less and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle. So it's green X and it's a 6. So a 6 battle points. I don't know what we call that. What are we calling those? Siege points? Everybody choose an opponent. I don't know. I don't know what we're actually calling that. So we'll just call it battle points. Oh, loyalty 6. It's still called loyalty. Okay, never mind. All right. So you can search for something for X, which is already decent. And then when it flips, you get Zalortha, Apex of Icoria. 8/8 with reach. For each non-human creature you control, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So non-humans, basically, you block them, they're still going to hit your opponent. This one feels less impressive because, man, it's tough, right? Because as a tutor, it's okay, right? You can pay X, go find a thing. That's kind of cool. You get to put it onto the battlefield. Awesome. But 6 is also kind of a lot to hit something for, unless you just already have it on the battlefield. But you could technically tutor for something with haste, and then use that to bash the siege. And that could be kind of cool. So, like, I don't know. This one's going to be kind of tricky. I don't know how to feel about this. The backside creature, though, kind of sweet. This one is Invasion of Ixalan. The Invasion of Ixalan enters the battlefield. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a permanent card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So for 2 mana, you just get to search up. Oh, look at the top 5. So you get to look at the top 5, put a permanent in your hand. So this one's not crazy, and it's only 4. So I'm assuming the thing... Oh, actually, we don't even know what's on the backside on this one. There's no backside for me to look at. So I don't know what's on there. I guess they haven't revealed that yet. So this seems fine. I mean, I guess, in general. Being able to just look at your top 5, put something in the hand. And it's only 4, so it's pretty easy to kill. But like I said, we don't know what's on the backside. We have Invasion of Zendikar for only a 3, actually, loyalty on this one. When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. This was already a magic card, right? Pay 4, go tutor up 2 basics, put them into play. So we already played with that. We know that's good, so that's fine. And then 3 is super easy. I mean, you could just lightning strike this thing and get whatever's on the backside, which happens to be Awakened Skyclave. 4/4, Vigilance, Haste. As long as it's on the battlefield, it's a land in addition to its other types. Add 1 mana of any color. Solid. Like, I mean, it's kind of all I can say about this. Like, these are fine. I mean, like, there's nothing like impressive. It's just, I mean, the fact that you can get it pretty easily after just tutoring up some lands is kind of nice, right? Because you're almost, if you're playing a creature deck, you're almost always going to have a 3-power creature on some level. So being able to play it, tutor some lands, punch into it, get a 4/4, that seems pretty good value for 4 mana. Now, you're also not hitting your opponent for 3 for the turn or whatever, but not bad, not bad. Do these have to be played at sorcery speed? They're just like normally casting spells, so they're not instant, so yeah. It's odd that it has haste, right? If you defeat it in battle, then it won't matter. Well, you could defeat it in battle, and then you could still tap it for mana. I think that's why it has haste. That you could end up using the ability to cast something else, potentially. I don't know that you would, but it's possible. So this one is Invasion of New Phyrexia. When Invasion of New Phyrexia enters the battlefield, create X 2/2 white and blue soldier creature tokens with vigilance. Whoa, what? So this is just blue, white, X, make a pile of things. Wow. Okay. So this is just like pay 6, get 4 2/2s. It does have 6 to hit it though, so that's a thing. But these are, all right, that's already good. Let's check the backside. The backside's a Teferi. Okay, Teferi Kosa of Zhalfir. +1, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard a creature. -2, you get an emblem with knights you control get +1/+0 and ward 1. Wait, so you straight up get all those dudes, and then you also get, so they're going to be 3 power, so 3 2s with ward 1. All right, and then tap X creatures you control. When you do, it's a -3 by the way. When you do, shuffle target non-land permanent and opponent controls with mana value X or less into its owner's library. That's a little more difficult unless you're just trying to get rid of something that costs like probably 1 to 3. But yeah, I don't know. The front side by itself seems solid to me. Like this is, wow, man, this card's going to be annoying. Like your opponent or anybody just being able to get X number of creatures later in the game after like turn 6 or 7 is already going to be tough. And then they get a planeswalker on top of it that also makes those bigger. Like, ugh. Yeah, I'm not going to look forward to playing against this card, though. I'm not going to lie. Like, this card, ooh, this card's going to be in a lot of decks, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, that was a ton of cards. My goodness. Lots of cool stuff. I think there's a lot to talk about. Like, battles are cool. A lot of these new combined creature legends are neat. Like, the planeswalkers are interesting. There's just so much stuff. So, y'all let me know down below how you feel about all this. Because, I don't know. I feel like the hype. I don't know. I feel like the hype's going to be pretty high on this set. Maybe y'all feel differently. I don't know. Y'all let me know. Also, let me know what you're looking for to see me cover with these previews and what's coming out. And if you want to just get caught up on everything that happened for me all these last 3 years, well, we did 3 years of YouTube content. Here's a video.